Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start this Bava Metzia daf Hey. We are going to begin on Hey Amud Aleph, about 6 lines from the top, with the words Tashma. We're trying to understand the law that Rav Chia mentioned in the previous daf regarding Halach. Namely, if someone says you owe me 100, and the other person says, okay, I owe you 50, but the other 50, no, that's called moedim mixas, and everyone holds in that situation. It's a shvua deraisa, and he would make a shvua on the other 50. However, what happens if he says, Halach, take the 50? So the 50 is no longer in play. So is that case now considered like he's being kofer kol? He's just denying only on the 50, and the other 50 is like it's not even part of the equation, and therefore there would be no chiv deraisa of a shvua. Or do we say this is also a case of moedim mixas? So according to Rav Chia, he says that there is a chiyav of moedim mixas, a shvua, in this case of halach. So we're trying to prove this. Toshma, Detani Rami Bar Chama, Arba Shaimrim Srichin Kfir b'mixas v'hoida b'mixas. When it comes to the 4 Shaimrim, namely the Shamarchinam, someone who watches an item for free without payment, or shoyl, or bar, or naisi sachar, or soicher, someone who is being paid for watching, or a renter, those 4 cases, the only time the dinim apply to them is only when they admit to part of the claim and they deny part of the claim. That is when there is a chiyav shvu upon them. Says Rashi, Kfira loy havi elo b'kaifer mamish. You have to actually deny something. Like you say, lahadam, I have no connection to it, I don't know what you're talking about. Or I admitted, I returned it to you. Hoda is you completely admit that you owe. Sheish biyado, it's in your hand. Shechayv l'hasul, you have to give it back. Nimsa shein chiyav shvus hashamrim ba el imkin tan shalosh paros. We're going to see. The Gemara Rashi says now that there has to be 3 cows, 3 items. Ba'achas kafir lo. One of them you just say lahadam. I don't owe you. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's kafir. Ba'achas haydelo sheyishna biyadai. The other one is in your hands. V'shlishis armulo neensa. And by the third one he says that it was an oinus, so I'm not chayiv. Oh, im shemachinam hu armulo b'shlishis nigdava, because we know a shemachinam is pater by gnei b'aveda. Shechayv aleha shvua, that he would make a shvua to pater himself on that third one. So that would be, as Rashi said, the scenario of how you can have moedim kfira and hoda. Otherwise, there's no chiyav shvua. You're denying one completely. The other one is you're saying it's yours, and the third one is the one that you're making a shvua on. Okay, so let's continue the Gemara. The Gemara explains this as well. So, hey Chidami, what exactly is this situation, is this case where we find regarding the Arba Shaimrim? So, the Gemara says as follows. Lav, is it not Yermel Halach? It must be, he says, take your para. Yet we find Halach Yerchayiv. So he's saying, take your para, take it. So nonetheless, even though he's saying Halach, so therefore the din is, okay. Lo, the armale gimel paras masartocha. Again, this is what we're going back on, which is really the Rashi, that there was 3. Umes kulhu b'pshia, and they all died. And therefore, since they all died b'pshia, you owe me all this money. You owe me for 3. The armale ihu, the Sherma says no. Chada lo hoya devar me'oyel. One he says lahadam. I don't know what you're talking about. That's kfira. The chada meisa ba'oinus, and the other one died. It was not pshia, it was ba'oinus, and therefore I'm potter for that. The chada meisa b'pshia, and you're right. The other one, taka, I do owe you because it died b'pshia. De'inu shumilach, that I do have to pay you. The love halachu. However, this is not a case of halach. It isn't here right now, but I do admit I owe you this para. But it isn't a case of halach. Halach is here, take it. Right? Over here we're talking about a case where the animal died. If the animal died, you can't say halach. It's a chiyav of having to pay for the value of that cow that died, and it's not talking about a case where he has that money necessarily here. So therefore it's not a case of halach. So even though it's true, if in fact you do need kfir b'mixas or hoidel b'mixas, it's not a raya that it's a case of halach. Okay. Tashma. The Tani Avua de Rabbi Aftoiriki. So Avua the Rabbi Aftoiriki learned with Rabbi Chia Kamaisa regarding Rabbi Chia's initial statement. Says Rashi Klomer Tashma El Shlotehe Hodas Piv Gedolim Hodas Edim. He went out the Kavachomer, which we tried to grapple over how you learn at this Kavachomer, or going through a Sadashava. So again, we're talking about a case where the Malva says, or claiming to be a Malva, you owe me money, $100. You owe me nothing. I owe you nothing. So he's kafir b'koil. This was the first Rav Chia. There's two cases of Rav Chia. The second one is what we're talking about of Halach. Here, also Rav Chia says that even in a situation where Adam say, no, this guy does owe the $50, Yochli Shaval Ashar. He still has to make a shua on the other 50 that he denies. So Yochli Shaval Ashar, you would think that he should have to. Talmud Lomer Al Kol Aveda Sheyamar Ki Huzeh. So the pasuk says that says Rashi, Moidelo b'mixas. When you're admitting to some of it, Mechlal de Kaifer b'mixas. You deny some of it. Because of Bahula El Minei v'Nikra Ba'Abayis Elokim. That's when you go to the Beis Din v'Nikra B'Shvua, and that's when there's a Chiyuv Shvua. Al Hoidas Pivata Mechayvo Yata Mechayvo Al Hoidas Edim. So actually, this is going against the statement of Rav Chia. He's not learning like Rav Chia, because Rav Chia says you would not be chayav in a shvua. You would be chayav in a shvua, rather, in this situation. But he's saying, no, it's only al kol aveda sheyamar ki huzeh. It's only when you admit to 50 and you deny 50, that is the time in which there is a din of being moidva mixas and there's a chiv shvua. But not when you're kaifer, you completely deny all 100, and the Adam come and say, what are you talking about? You definitely owe 50. So in that situation, the din is based on this reading of the pasuk that you would not be chayav in shvua. So Gemara says, Masnisa karamas aled Rav Chia Tanahu Polig. Okay, fine. You have this statement that's arguing with Rav Chia. Okay, but Rav Chia is a Tana. He has the ability to be able to disagree with this statement, because Rav Chia Taka does hold there's a Chiyuv. Okay, fine. Tana can disagree with other Tanoim, but he can't disagree with a Beferish Pasuk. The Pasuk seems to imply that when Adam come, when a person's Kaifar Koil, the din is that you there's no Chiyuv Shvua. So Hahu Lamoida Mixa Sataina. This is talking about a case of Moida Mixa Sataina. Va'avua the Rav Afroki Aftoiriki or Malachil Seyek Ksivhu Ksiv Zeh Chadlo Moida Mixa Sataina. The Chadlo Hadas Adam the Potter. Saying, yeah, you're right. This pasuk is talking about Moed Mixas Sataina, but the pasuk is also coming, not just telling you that there's a din of Moed Mixas Sataina, which is what you're trying to say, Rechia. No, the pasuk is also a diak to exclude Hoidas Edom. The Eidah Rav Chia would say, no, Chadal Moed Mixas Sataina, the Chadal Moed Min Hataina. Now, the other piece is just telling you it has to be Min Hataina, as we saw in yesterday's daf. And Rashi says, the Be'inan Shtei Hodam Min Hatainas Kfira, Shim Tainu Sa, Shalchit and Vahoidal Basarim Potter. If you say you owe me wheat and barley, and you say, yeah, I don't owe you wheat, but I owe you barley, that's not being Moed Mixas. It has to be B'min Hataina. You have to say, someone says, you owe me 100 pounds of wheat, and I say, I owe you actually only 50 pounds of wheat. That's Moed Mixas Hataina. So that's what Rav Chia learns out from there. The Yidach, does he know it's only when you're Moed Min Hataina is a Chiyuv. Moed Min Hataina Leisley. Hitaka apparently doesn't even hold like that. V'savrli Rabbi Gamliel did not. Tanachitim v'haydalo b'sa'irin Potter Rabbi Gamliel Mechayev. So that's just Pasha the answer. That he just holds that even if it's Shein Min Hataina, there's still a Chiyuv Shvua. Question 13. Asher Yomar ki hu zeh lafuke mai. What is the word zeh coming to exclude in the pasuk when it says Asher hu zeh? This case. So according to the disagreement of Rav Chia, it's coming to exclude Hoidas Edim. In that situation, there's no din shvua. However, according to Rav Chia, he says it's coming to exclude if you're tanu chitim v'hoidel b'sa'irin. So therefore, that's his opinion. Ken Rabbi Gamliel disagrees with that. Ahu Raya. So there's a story of a shepherd. Dahavi Masru Le Kol Yoima Chevasa Basadi. He used to always have, every time animals were given and transferred for his watching, it was always with witnesses. Yom Echad Masu Le Beloy Sadi. And at one time it was done without witnesses. Then it was said to him, he said to them, he said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have these animals. So also Sahadi, Sihidu Beidi Ochel Tarti Minayu. So witnesses came and they testified that he consumed 2 of them. So it sounds a lot like the case of Mana biyadcha, and you deny the whole thing, and then Adam say that you actually owe 50. So I'm Rav Zera, Im Isa the Rav Chia Kamaisa, according to the din of Rav Chia, in the original state of Rav Chia, Mishtaba Shara, you would have to make a shua, the shepherd on the rest, since the Adam are able to be mechayiv him a shua, which again is what Rav Chia said. So in this situation, a shua would be required according to Rav Chia. You know, it's a machlokas, as we just said. Amalei Abaya, Im Isa, Mishtaba, what do you mean? You want this guy to make a shua? Hagazlan He's caught red-handed. He said that he doesn't have these animals. Then you have witnesses that say that he ate them. So why would you allow this person to make a shua? He's not obviously lying. Amalei, Shekenegdu Kamina. You're right. It doesn't mean he would make the shua. It means there's a chiv shua in this case. And since he's chayshid al mamoinai, because he's a ganav and he's a kafran, so therefore because of that, we don't want to make him make a shua to not pay. We'll make the other party make a shua and he'll have to pay. So hashdinami delesa with Rav Chia. So even if you don't hold a Rav Chia, you should still require, as we're going to say, a shvuas heses, which is a shvu derabanan. Denan manu biyadcha einach biyadai pater v'yam Rav Nachman mashmiin oisa shvuas heses. So this whole discussion of having to make a shvua or not making a shvua by halach, but even in the case of not being mechuyev a shvua, it's only shvua deraisa. However, there's still a din sometimes of making a shvua derabban called a shvuas heses. So, what is this? The Gemara explains in Shvuas Rashi's chazal inadam toinel imkein yeshul biyadai. Why on earth are you making this claim? Why are you saying this? It must be that there's something to do with it. You don't just make up stuff against somebody. It must be there potentially some truth. So therefore, even though there's no chiyuv deraisa to make a shvua, there's still a shvua derabanan. So what is this whole question? Just make a shvua derabanan. So Rav Nachman tekanti. You're right. Midaraisa, there's no shvua. It's only a takana derabanan regarding having to make a shvua as we continue to hey amid beis. But the kanta lo yavdina. It's almost like a gezerah. We don't make a takana on another takana. What does that mean? Says Rashi, the kenegdo yishav of yitol the havi nami takantam the minatayra. When it comes to the Torah law, who makes a shvua? Misha olav shalim hu yishava. The one who has to pay has to make a shvua, and when he makes a shvua, v'yipater min hatashum, then he won't pay. Ve'en nishba v'naitel min hatayra v'oisa hamyunim b'shvuas takanas chachamim hein. The whole idea of in certain circumstances we have the other person make a shvua to have and then collect. That's only a din d'Rabbanan. That's a takanas chachamim. With shvua deraisa of the rabban tekanta. Only when it comes to shvua deraisa is such a takana instituted. Of the takanta la takanta avdinan. They can't make a takana onto another takana, which is question 14. But Maisa who ra'aya shepherd demasole bloy sahadi, and he ended up saying there was hadam, and there was 2 witnesses. They said there was what you talking about. You ate 2. Himish Torah shvuas al haraya lipater or connected litoil. So haraya in a nishmim shem to havi gazan the chashon al shvua. So he can't make a shvua. If you hold like Rav Chia, in which in this situation it's a case in which there's a chiyuv. Even by the Eidim, there's a chiyuv on a shvua, so therefore there's a takana that can be made kenegdoi. However, it's a takana the rabban. If it's only shvuas heses, then we cannot do kenegdoi. Okay, v'teipik. So ask the Gemara, why don't we instead learn dahavi le'roye? He's a shepherd, just straight up. So what? He's a shepherd. That's a good job. Yom Rabbi Yehuda stam roye apostle. Which is pretty amazing because some of the greatest leaders in Jewish history were shepherds, but shepherds unfortunately have a reputation of potentially being involved in stealing anyway, or having the animals in other people's properties and eating from other people's properties. So just learn out straight up that he's a roy's puzzle. So kasha hadidei had alma. So what does that mean? Didei, his own. Roya behemai shlo puzzle. When it comes to his own animals, he's puzzled. The b'shvil hanasai roya oisin b'sadas acheros, because it's his own animals and he has to feed them. So then we're chayshid that he's going to end up saving money by having them eat other people's food. Let's say he's getting paid to watch other people's animals in the city. So that shepherd is lav dafka considered to be puzzle, because it's not his stuff. So why would he have these animals eat and steal? Doesn't make any sense. He doesn't gain anything anyway. They're not his, so there's no monetary loss. So those people that he's watching their animals for, they're going to have to provide the food anyway, or he'll save receipts or whatever it is. And that's the case over here. So we're not going to just assume straight up that a roy is puzzle unless we know for a fact that he's mufkul koil. Okay, because de'ilo temahachi, because you don't say that anan. So you can say, well, I understand, if that's true, then how could you give an animal over to a shepherd if you know that he's a sinner and he's going to cause people to steal? These animals are going to steal. The answer is that it's not that assumption, because a person's not going to sin low, and there's no benefit from it. You're only going to sin if you think there's something to gain from it. But over here, if it's someone else's animals, he's not gaining anything when it comes to that. So therefore, he's not going to care. Okay. So now we're back to our Mishnah. So it's an interesting shvua that I do not have in it less than half. Is a shvua on what he has or what he doesn't have. It's hard to understand. Says Rashi, Shema ein lo ba klum. Maybe he has no claim in it. When he says I have don't have less than half, actually, it's interesting because, as we're going to see, that means I do not have in it less than half. But in that situation, the question is, that sounds like a lie. So I'm Rav Huna, I have a shvua that I do have something in it. The ainli ba pachas mechetzim, I do not have in it less than half. So name a shvua shekul shli, just say the whole thing is mine. So me'av yin lekul, we don't give him the whole thing. So therefore, if we end up having him make a shvua that kul shli, and we don't give him the whole thing, says Rashi, Hari Laz LeBastin. This is going to end up being embarrassing to the Bastin. Miach Shekula Shlo. He's claiming the whole thing is his, and all of a sudden we say divide it in half. Why would you divide it in half? We're only giving, when he says the whole thing is his. So we don't want him to make a shvua, which makes the Bastin look unusual. So after that, so we can't say kulish. He can't say kulish. The name is shvua shechetz. Just say half is mine. What is it? This tongue twister language. So marle ledibure. The problem is, it's going to be, his words will be bad. It says Rashi, the Amr Bereshu, he said, the Amr Bereshu kul shali, he originally said it's all mine, and now he's going to say explicitly half of it is mine. So we're basically making him say something which isn't true about himself. So therefore, that's a problem. He's not going to want to say, he first says kul shali, and now he's saying half of it is mine. Instead we're saying, I do not have in it less than half. So when we give him half, it's not that it's contradicting what he said in his first statement when it's all mine. We're just saying, okay, we're going to give you only half. But you're not saying when I don't have it in less than half. Maybe that's the same. It could also mean you have it the whole thing. So therefore, you're not being marley with dibure. So hashinami marley dibure. Isn't he saying the same bad thing? I maybe already said too much there. However, according to your words, the rabbi says shua sheishli ba v'einli ba pax mechetzia. If everyone is holding on to whatever is theirs, shua zulam, what is the whole purpose of the shua anyway? Let them just take what was theirs. So Rabbi Yochanan, as we said before, this is just a Takana D'Rabbanan, because otherwise people may end up just grabbing things which potentially are not theirs, but they just want to do it because they know that they're automatically going to be able to get half. So therefore, once we make a shvuah on this person, that will deter a person from doing so. In fact, the Gemara, will it? The fact that it's possible that this person is a thief and a crook, so maybe he's also going to lie. No, amazing thing, which unfortunately it's a Yuridius Aditis. We don't have this anymore. But Rashi says, a person's going to steal things and say it's his, so if we're chashid that he's going to do that, maybe he's going to make a shvuah. So Rashi says, the chamer hu inshi iser shuam iser gzela. Making a shvuah is even worse than stealing. And Taisus quotes the Gemara in Yuma in Shuas, sha'oilim niz dazeyam al loy sisa. That when they heard in the Aseres Tedibus lo sisa shemakach b'shav, the whole earth shook, the world shook. It was such a very serious thing. So therefore, a person does not just make shvuahs. They don't just swear, say things out of their mouths, which is unbelievable. A person isn't as careful about stealing. You can rationalize it maybe in certain circumstances. We see this all the time, unfortunately. People break into stores, and now everything has to be locked up in 2024 because people say, well, these stores are so rich anyway, and they tax me, or whatever mishigas they believe in. So they rationalize it. But a shvuah, how can you make a shvuah? What comes out of your mouth is significant. Unfortunately, again, people may not think that anymore, but that's how it was. Otherwise, if you don't say this whole notion that people are more careful about a shvuah, if you don't say this, the Torah says, a tiny shava. You're supposed to make a shvuah when you say, yes, I owe you 50, but I don't owe you the other 50. So obviously it's because we're not chayshid, even though he's a thief. Hasam, no. Over there he's not a thief, as we said before. All he's doing is trying to push him off. He's not a thief. He really wishes to admit the whole thing, but he just doesn't have the whole $100 at hand, so he's just trying to push him off. I'll prove this to you. If you deny a loan, which is a hoitzal nisna, which was spent, now he doesn't have the money, so even though he denies it, he's considered to still be kashal edus, because again he's just being ashtemute, he's just pushing him off. Or bikadon posel edus, because the bikadon you're supposed to have, you're not supposed to use, and if it's in your house and you're being kaifer bikadon, obviously that is the problem. That shows that you are posel edus. But again, the point is, being kaifer b'mil was kashal edus, which is why moedim mixes a taina, we will say that this person will make a genuine shvuah, even if it's true, because he's ishtemute. But it's not because he's chayshid and mamoin. We saw this in Rashi before as well, toward the beginning of the Masechta. We also learn the Arba Shem Srichin Kfir B'mixis V'Haydam B'mixis. Who are these four people? As we said at the beginning of today's daf, Hashem Rechinam, Hashayin, Yisasachim, and Vasaycher, which will be introduced to them again at greater length in Perek HaMafkid. So Neima Migud Chashidim B'Mod Chashid Shavasa. Again, if they're thieves, these guards and so we're chayshid them that they're thieves, we should assume that their shulas are also going to be not genuine. Again, it's possible it's just delayed. Savar, let's say he borrowed something and it was used or something like that. Mashkachno l'ganiv, or maybe he'll say, I'm going to try to find the ganiv. But tafis delayin, I'll grab hold of the item that he stole. Inami. Mashkachno le ba'agam, I'll find it in the swamp. Umaisin delayin, I'll give it to you. So if it's Geneva Vaveda, if it's lost or stolen, so maybe this is the Taina, he's going to try to find it, even though the truth is he's not being genuine, but the reality is that he's not a thief. He just wants, he may be saying what he's saying to deny. Yehachi a because of my apostle Edis, name Ashtimuti Kamishtamid, Savar ad de Bechashna Umashknole. So he said, well, maybe the same thing. Why don't we say the same thing by Kafir Bibikadain? that maybe, again, it got lost or something like that, and it's somewhere in his house, is embarrassed because his house is such a mess, can't figure out where it is. So why would that make him Pasal Edis? Maybe he's just trying to push him off by Kaifer B'Kadain as well. So Kiamrina Kaifer B'Kadain Pasal Edis. You're right. Not always are you Pasal Edis, but it's only going to Asu Sahadi. Witnesses came, Vasihidu Bey, Dahi Shaita Isil B'Kadain B'Beise, that you actually had to be Kadin in the guy's house. Haviyada, and not only that, he knows exactly where it is. So in that situation, if you have Adam, I know for a fact, it's in this guy's living room in that corner, but now he's not letting us into his house. So in that situation, the din is that then he'll be Pasal Edis. But otherwise, you're right. You could always say Ishtemute also by Karfik B'Kadain. Hinami the Havinakadle Biyade. You see, it's mamish in his hands. He says, "Oh, what are you talking about? It's not. I don't have it." Right? So that is the situation. Okay. Question TB 22. Great question. So let's see what I wrote. Rak im zeb bias o biyad shehu mishaker. So it's a beautiful answer. Aval im hapikadin ba'agam ulai hu ashtemute hu dishtamit vo pasul edis. Beautifully written answer. TB 22. That was a great answer. So this is what he's saying, that you're right. Maybe Nemesh Demuti Kamishtamit by Pikadain. So we're saying Kiamrina and Hakaifer Pikadain Pasal Edis is only witnesses actually testify that it's in his house, and he knows, or it's in his hands. Okay, that was TB 22. You make a shvua that it's not in your hands, in your domain, says Rashi. But come on. We're going to see in the third parak in Hamafkid, Gabi Shilin V'Ratzlu Shava. When it comes to the Shomer that says, I'm going to pay you, even though maybe I don't have to pay you, I don't want to make a shvua. So Rav Huna, Im Bo L'Shalem, if he wishes to pay, Mashbino is a shua shein rishus, so we still make him make a shua anyway that's not his rishus. Because maybe he likes the item. So even though he could make a shua to get out of it and not pay, so he decides to pay and not make a shua. But nonetheless, there's still an additional shua that will require him to make of shua shein rishusi, which obviously means that we're concerned that maybe he's stealing it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have said such a thing. So, question is again, so Hasam Nami Moyer v'Omer, he'll rationalize and say, I'm giving him money, I'm paying him for it anyway. So therefore, I'm paying. So it's no problem. I'm not a thief. I'm paying for the item. So Amalei Ravacha Medivnu Ravina. What are you talking about? V'Haka Abra Alav Loy Sachmoid L'Sachmoid L'Inshi. So Loy Sachmoid. So he's coveting. So he's still a crook. He's still a bad person for violating one of the Aseres Dibros. So lo sachmo the inshi blo demei mashmahu. Most people will interpret don't covet, and then it has to do with taking something without payment. However, which is not the case. Lo sachmoid is lo sachmoid. But a person will rationalize and say, no, lo sachmoid is only if I don't pay. I'm paying this guy anyway, so he's really a good guy. He's not a bad person, so he's not chayshin amayna. And therefore, we would trust his shvua. Daf vav v'malv. V'hadiyam Rav Nachman mashbiyan oiso shvuas heses. As we said before, if you're not moed of mixus, but rather you're koy from hakoil, the din is you still make a shvua d'Rabbanan. So because he's denying the whole thing. Says Rashi, the man is panav. He's being brazen, being choshid, being koy for the whole thing. So that in itself, by shvuas heses, is clear that even if we're choshid him on stealing, he's still not going to make a false shvua. And here's another point. When it comes to the case of Chen Vinel Pin Kasai, we said that I say to a store owner, I said, can you do me a favor and pay my workers? I'm not around. So the workers say they were never paid. The store owner said, I paid. So what happens? Both swear and collect from the Baal Bias. The Baal Bias, unfortunately, has to pay twice, as we saw before. And obviously, one is lying if he took or didn't take. So someone is definitely lying in this case. So there's no question that one person is lying. We don't know who, but we still allow them to both make a shvua. So also he says that there are 3 shvuos. For example, when it comes to a shemer chinam who claims that the item was stolen, therefore he doesn't want to pay, he doesn't want to reimburse, because the shemer chinam is patur b'gneva veda. So he makes a shvua. He actually has to make 3. Shvua shel peshati ba. He has to make a shvua that he was not negligent, he was not a peshe, because shemer chinam is chayav pshia. Shvua shel shalach biyad. He has to make a shvua that he didn't send his hand out to it. Why says lasos malachti. The evil shalach yad havi gazlan. If he used it, then he would be a gazlan. He would be chayav even an oinus that would happen to it. And shvua sheni b'shusi. And he also has to make the shvua sheni b'shusi, which again you always have to make that shvua even if you're shalom nishba, according to that opinion we saw before. So based on these shvuas, you say shvua again sheni b'shusi. You can say the same thing. So So based on all these different things, it's a raya that we don't say the statement. The din is that even though he's chashin amamoin, he's not going to lie. So that's answer number 1. Abaya says back now look in Rashi. Time in masnis in lav kid Rabbi Yochanan. It's not like the statement that Rabbi Yochanan said. Ihavi chashid lon hoylich. If we're chayshid regarding the case of hoylich, when he gives the $50 back, and the guy grabs hold on talesim which don't really belong to him, yeah, if this guy's actually going to just grab and hold and steal, grabbing hold onto a talis which he has no connection to, but he just decides to grab hold onto it, so in that case he shows his true colors, he's chayshid amamoin, then we are chayshid him on shvua. But we're going to see that it's possible that this guy is actually owed money from before. And he recognizes him, and then he ends up saying that he doesn't owe him anymore. So in that situation, the malva won't steal, but he owes me money, so I'll grab it to collect from him. The hoyach v'toicha b'talisa v'nishma sheish lo ba d'metzia v'tal zu shelo. This is his talis. To hafil glima del kseifa shabidle. You owe me money. So if you're not going to pay me money, so then you owe me whatever you have. There's a shibud on all of your items to pay me back. So therefore, I grabbed hold onto the talis. I know it's not my talis. It's yours. But since you owe me money and you're not paying me back, so I'm going to grab hold onto this because I have a claim to this value anyway, and therefore maybe that's the case. He's just owed money. If that's the case, then why do we put a shvua on such an individual? Nishko below shvua, as it's owed to him, so let him just take what's owed to him. El chashin shema Safek milva yeshana yeshlolav. We don't know if that's the case. If we know that he was actually owed money, then that would be it. He has to get his money back. It's coming to him rightfully. However, we're not sure. It's a suffix. So because of that, we're not going to just immediately think that this guy is a ganav. So therefore, velava mrina tafas mamayna misfeka. But don't we say if you're typhus money misafik, mishtabanami misafik? So you're going to have to make a shvua misafik. So I don't understand. How do we understand this? So Rav Sheshes B'Redu Avidi Parshi Inshi Misavik Shvua V'Lo Parshi Misavik Mamoina. The truth is, we're not going to be concerned because a person will separate from suffix shvua. He's not going to want to make a shvua in this case, but he's not going to separate from a suffix mamoina. So, in other words, what happens is that not that we don't know, but we're talking about a case the guy himself, the malva, may not remember. He thinks maybe this guy owes him money. So therefore, since it's a suffix mamoin, he's not sure. He's just going to, in case of doubt, just hold on to it. But he's not going to make a suffix shvua, and potentially he's going to be lying. So my taima, why? Because mamoin isa b'chazara, shvua leisa b'chazara. When it comes to money, he may eventually say to himself, you know what, I made a mistake. this guy doesn't owe me the money. He just returns the money. But once you make a shvua, there's no turning back. There's no taking it back. And therefore, for that reason, the din is that in this case, we will allow him to make a shvua, because if this is the case, it's a suffix mamoin, so then he's not going to make even a suffix shvua, and therefore, because of that, according to Abai, interestingly enough, he disagrees with all of it. He doesn't say that a person. We learn from here that someone who's chayshid on mammon, we do not say he's chayshid a shvua. Maybe he is chayshid a shvua, but this guy, maybe in his head, he thinks this guy owes him money from before, and therefore he grabs hold onto this item. And in that situation, it's possible that this person will grab hold b'safek and even take something b'safek, because he can always return it. But now we're going to put a shvua on him, and since it's a suffix, he's not going to want to make a shvua adkan.